Tonight, we revisit one of the most unforgettable moments in American criminal justice, a case that shook the nation, divided communities, and forced millions to question who they trusted more, a celebrity or the system meant to protect them. Nearly 3 decades later, the story of O.J. Simpson, Nicole Brown Simpson, and Ron Goldman still echoes with unresolved tension. And perhaps the most haunting question remains the same. How could a case with so much evidence become a verdict that shocked the world? To understand why this trial became a cultural earthquake, we must step back into the early 1990s, a time when Los Angeles was still recovering from deep wounds. The beating of Rodney King, the acquittal of the officers involved, and the violent unrest that followed had torn the relationship between law enforcement and many communities. Trust in the police was fragile, and emotions simmered just beneath the surface. Against this backdrop, on the night of June 12, 1994, Nicole Brown Simpson and Ron Goldman were found brutally murdered outside Nicole's home in Brentwood. The crime scene was chaotic and emotionally devastating. Nicole was a young mother rebuilding her life, while Ron was simply returning a pair of glasses left behind at a restaurant. Their deaths sent shockwaves through the city. Very quickly, attention turned to O.J. Simpson, former football superstar, actor, and beloved public figure. His past relationship with Nicole had included documented domestic violence incidents, and their divorce had been turbulent. But for many Americans, the idea that such a charismatic figure could be involved felt unbelievable. When police attempted to bring Simpson in for questioning voluntarily, he failed to appear. And then came one of the most surreal episodes in American television history, the slow-speed Bronco chase. The nation watched live as Simpson, in the backseat with a gun, was driven down Los Angeles freeways while crowds gathered on overpasses. Some waved signs, others cheered. For many, that moment symbolized the strange collision of celebrity, fear, and media spectacle. When the criminal trial began, it was unlike anything the world had ever seen. Cameras were allowed in the courtroom, making it the most watched legal proceeding in American history. Lawyers became celebrities. Every day, millions tuned in as if it were a drama unfolding in real time. The prosecution presented forensic evidence they believed was overwhelming. Blood samples, DNA results, and a timeline they argued placed Simpson at the scene. But the case was far from straightforward. Questions quickly arose about how the evidence was collected, stored, and presented. Then came a revelation that changed everything. One of the lead investigators, already viewed with suspicion, was confronted with a recording of past racist language that not only shocked viewers, but severely damaged his credibility. During questioning, he invoked the Fifth Amendment when asked about possible evidence tampering. For many jurors, this response struck at the heart of the case. If they could not trust the investigation, how could they trust the evidence? In communities that had long felt targeted or mistreated by police, this moment resonated deeply. The trial was no longer just about one man. It became a mirror reflecting decades of tension between law enforcement and marginalized communities. For many viewers, especially in Los Angeles, the question was not simply, did he do it? But also, can we trust the people who say he did? The defense seized on this moment. They argued that police misconduct, whether intentional or through incompetence, had contaminated the investigation. Their message was clear. Even if the evidence looked convincing, the system presenting it could not be trusted. And so, on October 3, 1995, classrooms, offices, and homes across America stopped what they were doing to hear the verdict. When the words "not guilty" were read aloud, reactions were immediate and opposite. Some celebrated with joy, seeing the verdict as a rare moment when a black defendant overcame a system they believed was stacked against him. Others were outraged, convinced that a guilty man had slipped through the cracks of justice. For the families of Nicole Brown Simpson and Ron Goldman, the verdict was heartbreaking. Their grief, already unimaginable, was now compounded by the fear that accountability might never come. But the legal story did not end that day. In the civil trial that followed, a different jury found O.J. Simpson liable for wrongful death, awarding damages to the families. This judgment, based on a different legal standard, reinforced for many Americans the belief that the truth remained complex, painful, and unresolved. Looking back, the case continues to spark debate. Was it a failure of the prosecution? A product of police misconduct? A reflection of racial wounds that go far beyond a single courtroom? Or an example of how fame and wealth can tilt the scales of justice? What remains clear is that the trial exposed the fault lines of American society. It revealed the consequences of eroded trust between communities and law enforcement. It demonstrated how the courtroom can become a stage for history, trauma, and identity to collide. And it reminded the world that justice is not only about evidence, it is also about credibility. Today, the memories of Nicole Brown Simpson and Ron Goldman remain at the center of the story. Beyond the controversy, beyond the arguments, their lives were lost in a tragedy that should never be overshadowed by spectacle. Their families continue to speak out, determined that their legacies not be forgotten. As we reflect on this case, we confront uncomfortable truths about power, race, class, and the justice system. We are reminded that trust, once broken, is difficult to rebuild. And we are reminded that justice requires not only evidence, but faith in the institutions that present it. Nearly 30 years later, the questions still linger. They challenge us, provoke us, and ask us to examine the society we live in. What does justice mean when the truth is tangled in history, emotion, and public perception? And how do we move forward when a single verdict reveals so many divisions? What do you think about this case? Share your thoughts below, and don't forget to like and subscribe so we can uncover more stories together. This content is compiled and analyzed based on publicly available information and open discussions.